And that's a really fortunate, I think.
Might have to go inside.
I've actually found a place in Grönland,
Yeah.
and you've got it's on the main street with it. It's really, really nice. Going there just by.
Hey, Peter. You there?
Hey, Jürgen. Hi.
You gonna get this thing started?
Yeah, calling Trondheim.
Great. Great to see you.
Likewise.
Let's welcome the audiences. Dear university directors on both sides, Sturden and Bovin, dear faculty directors on both sides, deans, vice deans, and not least dear students and dear guests. It's an honor and a pleasure to welcome you to the opening of our new joint master's program in music, communication, and technology, which is, as we know, a collaboration between the University of Oslo and the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, NTNU. My name is Jørgen Langdalen. I'm the head of the music department at the NTNU. And Peter?
And my name is Peter Woods. I'm head of the Department of Musicology here at the University of Oslo.
Yeah, these are exciting times. And this program is something truly unique. This is the first joint degree in music technology of its kind. It's a very different master's program and very much a music program of the future. New ideas, new technology, and creativity are at the very core of the program.
And the program intends to break new ground, and it's the students who are very much at the center of breaking that ground, and who will have the opportunity to take part in shaping the future. So if there ever really was a true study program that is future-proof, then this is it.
Right.
Not only will students work towards a master's degree that equips them with new skills and knowledge, it will also equip the students with new ways of thinking and innovating in an extremely fast-moving technological world full of possibilities, where the ability to come up with new solutions is key.
Yeah. Research-led tuition is at the heart of the program, as is problem-based learning. It's a thoroughly interdisciplinary program, and the potential transfer value of new ideas and knowledge is key, as I think we are going to see, by the way, in the examples that we're going to have presented here today during the day.
So it remains to say a huge thank you to all involved in bringing all of this to fruition, to the faculties, to the university boards and leaderships for seeing the potential in this and for generously supporting the program. And also, of course, the staff on the ground, Alexander, Christian, Hans, Nora, Stein, Anush, Frank, the IT section at the Faculty of Humanities, and the network support team here at the university.
Yes, and a huge thank also to Sigurd, Robin, Øystein, Jørgen here at the NTNU campus. Have been working really hard to get this going. Shortly, we will hear from Alexander and Sigurd a little more about the program before the university directors are going to open the program officially.
Yeah, so just a huge thank you to everyone involved, because it really has been an enormous effort, an enormous team effort, and it's been unbelievable to really follow this program and everything to do with the development of it from the very start. So it just remains to say welcome to the seminar, and enjoy the rest of the seminar, the rest of the day. We're going to have a musical interlude now. Super String Theories performed by Øyvind Kravstig and Bernt Isak Larstad. Så vær så god.
Have some. So I just wanted to briefly explain what we're going to play. We've created an instrument especially for this occasion, and it is some, you could call it Stone Age technology in terms of digital instruments, because it's a physical model of a string made from a delay line, and when by controlling the delay time, we control the pitch of the string. This is very simple building blocks. But what is exciting that our virtual string here in Trondheim extends through the portal to also, so whatever I play here will resonate on the rest of the string that is positioned in Oslo. And whatever Bernd plays on his side will resonate on this side. And after a while, we will connect the feedback loop between these two strings and create a giant string that spans the whole distance between these two campuses. And we'll see how it goes.
Now it's time for the program responsible, Alexander and me, to say a little bit about the program before having the formal opening by the rectors, which we look very much forward to. So I'll let Alexander start, and he's actually showing some slides, so we are doing multitasking here now.
Yes, this is actually as you see, we are standing in our lab. This is a teaching lab, research lab, and it's very much in progress. It's reconfigurable in every single way. So we're testing out a lot of different things, including now also the presentation of here. So we're going to say a few words about this. As already been mentioned, this is a quite unique program in that we try to link these two campuses. And we're doing that with communication technologies, as we're talking now. We're even using two different types of systems at the moment. And one of the things is that we are trying to see if we can move forwards when it comes to technology. So we if you're used to kind of regular type of Skype connections, we have call and you have all sorts of latency issues, etc. We're trying to see how can we develop better communication technologies in the future, starting from a musical perspective. And the reason why we think that people with a musical background can improve communication technologies is because music is really one of the fastest and most challenging signals, if you like, out there in terms of how we create music and also how we perceive music. So that's really what we want to tackle. So if you if you think of a musical situation like we just had here, if you want to perform with someone, there is a lot of things happening between the performers in terms of the audiovisual communication. You look at each other, you can communicate very quickly, and with all sorts of subtle different types of communication channels. So then being able to do this together with a kind of wall between us. Oh, one minute. This is what we're trying to look at and really trying to study. Can we communicate between us 540 kilometers apart? Can we play music together with us? Can we communicate in kind of its full complexity? That's what we're going to really work on, and that students are going to be challenged on. So we are standing in the portal, and you just heard Isak and Øyvind perform one thing between here, trying to also really see how we can work with this type of technologies that we are have here in the labs, and also to see if we can kind of develop some of the problems you're facing in terms of, for example, latency into something that can be used creatively as well, as they just did now in this string going between them. So we have set up this portal now as we're standing in here. This is the portal, and we would like to think of it as one extended room. It's not that we're going to call to Trondheim. We are in Trondheim when we enter this room. And similarly, when you are in Trondheim, you are in Oslo when you enter this room. So when the students come in here in the morning, the portal is already running, and they know that when they open the door, they will see possibly someone on the other side. They're never alone in this room. You're always also in Trondheim at the same time. So this is where we're going to work. And we're going to use a lot of different types of technologies. We are working with different types of research-based technologies, like a system called Lola that we have running here now, where we're sending uncompressed audio and video. And we are using commercial systems like the one we have here now. And we're going to test out these different ones and really see how they work in real-life situations. Because we're running a real master program. It's experimental, but it's a real master program. If we click once more, yeah, I should mention Udenet as well. They have been an extremely important partner in getting this running as well. So I just want to mention them. On the Oslo side, of course, it's also important to say that both this lab, but also everyone involved are also part of the larger University of Oslo and all kind of neighboring institutions. And very closely connected to our new Center of Excellence REPO with different labs there, but also to related departments like the musicology, psychology and informatics department, and others, also within the Faculty of Humanities. On the Trondheim side, click, there you go. There are also a number of different institutions and institutes at NTNU and surrounding partners that are also connected here, so that we can kind of work with them, use their human resources, and also tap into their digital resources. Once more. One thing we are very excited about is that we also have 2 partner schools, Edvard Munch videregående skole here in Oslo and Trondheim Katedralskole. And we are working with them so that our students here in this program will work at these schools, will run workshops with the school, the students there, and also set up a similar type of portal in the schools. So we're going to have a Christmas concert this year between the 2 schools, and the students in the MCT program will make this happen. And finally, we also, of course, part of a large international network with the partners around the world. These are just some of them. And we also want to explore how we can work with them and play music also between these different institutions over the years. Then, Sigurd, I think it's your turn.
Yeah, and we can just keep this black image because this is where we started a few years ago, Alexander and me. This was the program. I will just run you through sort of the program components and what this is all about. So this is where we started, and then if you click now, we actually found out we needed an introduction course as part of the program because our students are coming from all kinds of disciplines. We have any bachelor is actually admissible to this program, but they have to document technical and musical competence through a digital portfolio and an interview. So these students are handpicked, literally. So this introduction course is actually a baseline where we sort of align the competences of all these students. But they learn new stuff, they learn the music production, if they can't don't know it beforehand, music cognition, acoustics, human-computer interaction, and stuff like that. So it's a basic course aligning the students. And then click. Then we have a methodology course for research methods in this particular setting, but also both related to humanities and to technology, which is a sort of a very clear characteristic that this program is its cross-disciplinarity. One more. And entrepreneurship, that they are actually allowed to put these ideas into a real-life situation. And here we are actually teaming up with Engage, which is one of the centers of excellence in education here at NTNU, for bringing excellent teachers in to help us there. Okay, click on. Then we have a number of elective courses that they can select in the next semesters on specific topics, very tool-based, signal processing, artificial intelligence, more human-computer interaction, motion capture, technical stuff, but all the time they have to bring their reflections, both aesthetically reflections, methodology reflections. So they're never allowed to be just technical. They just have to bring their humanities competence as well. And then they have these applied projects where we team up with external partners and get our students to work on projects for them for an entire semester. We're already having connections with local schools, but also in health, in communication technologies. Companies like Cisco have been involved, Telenor, stuff like that. So this is going to be very interesting. So our students will be out there, not just theoretically, working theoretically. One more. And finally, we have a master thesis. We don't know what that will be yet, but that's going to be very interesting. It's 1.5 years or 2 years from now, so we don't really have to worry that much. Yeah. And then there's a final piece in this puzzle that I would like to specifically point out, which is the portal. So this is the course where I learn to know or use all this equipment. It's a place for exploring, testing, get to know, document, arrange stuff in that portal. Which means that this program not only uses all this equipment for its learning, but it actually progresses or tests and develops this technology, this methodology as part of the program. So it's sort of a program that actually helps itself work as a program. So this portal course is a huge. It's at the core of the program, and it actually lasts for 3 semesters. So what we've done here to early this week has been the portal course, getting all this up and running, for instance. Okay, so this is a basic outlook of this program, and just to sort of sum it up, I can just go on. What we are giving the students are sort of a technological basis. Then they will know some hardcore technology, and depending on the starting point, some of them will go very deep into hardcore technology, and then We build on top the humanities, our ability for critical thinking, for aesthetics, to do reflections, to put this in a sort of a societal context, which is very important. And finally, we add on top of that entrepreneurship, the ability to work in teams. We will focus very much on team-based learning, project-based learning in this program. There will be not many lectures, for obvious reasons almost, I would say, because having this portal, lecturing is not the optimal way of learning. So this is the final and also very important part of the project. And all of this sums up to what we call, if you give me another slide, what we call 21st century skills. It's hidden behind the small image. 21st century skills is sort of as a declaration, what do we need in this next century? And it's more complex. It's about what we call literacy, knowing, knowledge, but it's also about all these skills of working in teams, of being able to reflect, to think critically. All of these things is something that this program just comes with for free. Almost for free. I won't say that. Our faculty does not agree, I guess. Okay, so this is what we want to achieve. I really hope we can do this. It's I would say a great goal, and I think Peter Edwards said it earlier. This is a future-proof study program. So this is our intention, and to make this happen, we have to just get going, and that's where I hope we can get our rectors to help us to kick us off and get us started. So I will hand it over here in Trondheim and hand it over to Gunnar Bovim, rector at NTNU.
Thank you. It's very easy to get excited for this. And I'm sure that both Svein and I, as rectors, are excited about this. Because it is about time that we make a joint master's program between the University of Oslo and NTNU. And I'm sure I share this with all in the audience. Because these are, I think you both represent strong and complementary academic groups within music technology. And we have learned that you have wanted to collaborate closely for a long time, and therefore we think that today is an important day to join the forces for music, communication, and technology.
I think it's quite amazing to stand here. I spent a lot of my time previously in labs, but nothing like this type of lab. So it's quite special. And also, I'm not really sure where to look. I think what we see here is a new future. I like the word future-proof study programs, of course. But what we also see is a kind of digital communication, collaboration platform that is quite interesting and challenging, I think. It's important even for people at my age, I believe. You like? What do you say?
I don't know about that.
But also what I feel is that it's important to have this technological development that we are doing here, but also to train ourselves in communication and collaboration across distance. That's quite difficult, I think, and challenging. It will be really interesting to see where this ends up. MCT is, as you heard today, the first study program with one class, but located at 2 physical locations. That's important, of course, because what you get here is some kind of program that can be used as a living lab to experience on this collaboration and teaching across cities, across campuses. So I'm sure we are going to learn a lot from this program. Really, it will be challenging both for the teachers and the students, I think, but I think the students are quite lucky to take part in this. I think this is interesting.
And I think this inter-campus part is important, as is the interdisciplinary part of it. And for some reasons, it may be even more difficult to talk across the disciplines than to talk across the campuses. And you really challenge both of those, and we're happy to follow you further. And I think this interdisciplinarity of the program is exciting from the rector perspective, because art, humanities, technology meet with different and even broader profiles, and to communicate between these and to make this come forward together with with the engineering and the different disciplines we both have in our universities is challenging, and we hope it's hard work. We hope it's hard work because that's what we need to meet the challenges. We have a good starting point today, and we have very good arena for new practices, new ideas, and we look forward to the following.
I agree, interdisciplinarity is not easy. So it is challenging for the scientist, but it's also challenging for the university. So I think also what I should say is thank you so much to the people involved in this center for challenging us as a university. I think we need that type of challenge, and I hope we are able to really adjust so that we are making interdisciplinarity more easily available in the future. And then I would say that this program is going to be very important for music technology, of course, but also for education in general. And I also believe that what you learn here will be, how to say, you can transfer this type of understanding to the rest of society. And I guess this will be important for arts in Norway in general, I guess. So I'm really excited.
We expect for you to talk about this to the other teachers and researchers in both universities. And now I think we've come to the most difficult part. Well, the most difficult part may not be this one, but it is that you and I are going to say this together. No, don't do the technology.
I just have to find how to do it first.
This is really time and loss.
And we hereby
It's like in a marriage.
music, communication,
And technology as
open. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, Alexander will present the final sounding piece of this opening ceremony part. So I'll hand it over to him. By the way, thank you, Alexander, for this this good work we've done on this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you to and all this. Now I just need to throw the jacket. So we have formed an entirely new muscle band between University of Oslo and NTU, and we will perform a piece for you. That's coming out of a research project we have going here on human standstill and micromotion. And the idea is that we are exploring the opposite way of making music. So usually you make music by moving. In this case, you have to make music by not moving. So the stiller you stand, the more sound you make. And since we are the muscle band, we do this by using our muscles to control the musical sound. now there is cake or a fruit lunch.
Thank you so much. We are
I said now there's cake.
So we actually we have completed the formal opening. There will be food served right outside. And wait, I don't know if it's here yet. Since we're kind of scheduled. So yeah. So nevertheless, thank you all for being here for the opening. Thank you so much.
Eu às vezes ficava sem pequeno almoço à conta da conversa delas. Elas estão ali para servir as pessoas, têm que se convencer disso. Tal e qual como uma aula. Falar da minha vida pessoal, nem do meu filho, nem do que fiz, nem do que não fiz. Quer dizer, eu lá para dar a matéria. Se não dou a matéria, vou para casa. É evidente.
Could we get something more interesting to look at from your Lola camera?
Yeah, the lecture, I can stand here.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
It's just for the lecture, so of course we can move it to the audience.
Yeah, because now we are presenting the presentation here now on our big screen. So it would be so nice to see you. Ah, beautiful. A little bit more. Yeah, at least then we see. Then we have a feeling of sitting together. Oh, that's very nice. Yeah, very nice. Feeling of sitting together. Okay. Say good. Are we ready to go? Okay, call it. Yeah, some students. That would be good. All these things we need to kind of think about here in this system. Well, they don't see you there. They see you from there, so it's a bit tricky with it. Beautiful. I should take a picture of you guys from here because it looks really cool that you're kind of sitting together. Okay, then I think we are ready to go. Or? Was that a yes? Yes. Yes. So welcome to this MCT research seminar. This is part of the official opening day. And what we have been thinking about here is to have a kind of an open public research seminar with some invited guests that are of interest for the MCT program. So we have 4 speakers, 2 from each university, and they will all have different takes on topics related to working together with cables in different ways. And I would like to start by presenting Arild Boman, who is an associate professor emeritus here from this university, and has some very interesting experience with some of the same things we're working on now, but from a more historical perspective. So please welcome Arild Boman.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Let me first say, happy to be with you in Trondheim. I've been teaching with Bjørn Alvarez, teaching previously, and also at the Department of Arts, but never in this kind of relation. Also would like to say, as coordinator, the Knowledge Channel, Kunnskapskanalen, which is the cooperation between all universities in research communication, that the kind of production that could be possible through this cooperation should be also very relevant for public communication outwards in the cooperation we have with the NRK, where we can make programs and transmit there every week. Let me then thank Tore Kielland Bull and Philip André Bore, because they helped me save some of the old very strange tapes that I'm trying to present pieces from. You will probably find that what I'll be presenting may be well known or in a way old time. The reason why I still think it's relevant is that it's about initial encounters with new technology. I think that methodologically is a very important point, because such types of material, from whatever time they are, cannot be repeated afterwards. So it's a kind of source that one should take care of. This is a point then also for this institution. Talking about the emergence of this kind of experimentation, we have to go to the post-World War II period. And what characterizes it? It's reconstruction and consensus. But then gradually, social and cultural splits appear. The interesting thing is that it starts both in being differences between what establishments think, like everything is progress, progress will continue, and then growing subcultures and academic critics, which is questioning. This is also found in relation to technology, where future technology as a future of man is close to establishment thinking, and the technophobia related to the nuclear threats, environmental destruction. Then communication technology comes, and it seems this will get rid of the weaknesses of the industrial technology. So this will save us, will bring us further, and we get the expectations that this could be the unifier of man, really, which he never has been able to before, to communicate as generally, where everyone possibly involved. But we also found there a critic like the einsame Masse, that people get paralyzed by the new technology, and it leads to cultural imperialism. The interesting thing is that these dividing lines were very general. And that is methodologically interesting, because then that makes it possible to be concentrating on very small areas of research. If you relate them to these general conceptions, if they are able to show that they are not correct, then only one example will make it necessary to rethink. This is the basis for the zero hypothesis in methodology, and I think it's very important. I think it's important because that may be a possibility even for quite limited types of research to make relevant results. The kind of problem that I was interested in was such a one: would communication technology paralyze? And first started in '61 with video to see whether it could be done, be communicated with. It led to, after some years, the starting of video art teaching at the Art Academy in Oslo, and also some work in Nigeria in '77. On computers, from '61, some computer pieces during the '60s. In TV language, very interesting work by the producers Svein Erik Børja, and we did some experiments along with Gangal Barik and other musicians, which actually were only for experimentation, but was sold to many countries. But because at that time, broadcast productions could be experimental more than out there. Then virtual reality, which was based then on Erkki Kurinniemi's quite fantastic innovations around 1970, where you could use the cameras as sensors and you could add, for instance, sound to movements. This was used in various kinds of experiments, but like all these other things, it showed that people were not paralyzed, like the theater artists, the stage artists here. They started to remake their face paintings and makeups, because they wanted to change the effect that their mimics had via the unprecedented sound transfer. And that led to changes in which one would say virtual reality, which it was never experienced before by these people. It changed and it had an impact on the tradition in which they worked. Also, we did some things like using the sound to generate applause. That would also be an effect which, in a way, would have influenced the relation between audience and stage. The power relation as the audience, one of the audience's few means of communication is the applause. So it's when the stage actor takes it over, then you can change the whole conditions. Now, the general conclusions of this was that the zero hypothesis was confirmed. We could find examples that this new technology did not paralyze people. I want to go into one aspect here, because if we look at the methodological side of music, the types of music that are not predictable, like jazz music, which has explicit freedom, is interesting in experimental connections, as the outcomes may differ, and if they can't, they will of course not be very interesting in experimentation. Now, what happened in the music culture in the 60s was that it became very central for young people as a way of self-definition. But the type of music coming in very strongly was the shadow and beat music, which was nearly extinguishing the work possibilities of jazz musicians in Norway. But what happened in the middle of the 60s was a return of jazz via rhythm and blues. And one example is the Public Enemies, a band of jazz musicians. We actually were able to break through into the youth culture, as was found in NRK Pulse, for instance, where it was winning this polls. But another relevance was also its relation to politics. The band was not playing political texts, which is found like protest songs, which is found musically quite uninteresting, but it was closely interrelated, met also by political use. This is a picture from Utøya in 1966 at the Nordic conference of youth, labor youth, and a band here playing with Ruth Rees, black singer. This was a period where the labor youth was taking up the fight against the Vietnam War and was able to bring that through after some months in the labor union and then later at the Labor Party, which changed in a way the kind of political climate, in the sense that the Vietnam opposition became mainstream in Norway, which it didn't in many other countries, and led to, for instance, the very extreme and brutal types of opposition that we found, for instance, in Germany and other countries. Well, so it seems that there was a kind of relation in this culture with activities that were open. But there were also limitations to it, like the Marxist-Leninists at the university saying when we went experimenting. Why are you doing these things? They don't bring you to make the strikes and against the cantina prices. But what we did was to enter into another type of communication technology. It's the interactive or two-way type. Satellites and broadband nets came from in the 60s, and they brought many kinds of implications. But the media research was very little into it. It was quite empty around that in the 1960s in Oslo. So we would have to try to do some studies. And the first one was in 1973 with music, trying to use a satellite kind of system to see how interaction could be done. And it led to a set of models, or even, as I will indicate, even predictions about possible outcomes of the new media. I will now also say that we experimented with music, with visual communication, and with kinetic, like ballet dance communication, because we could not say that empirically they are the same. You have to check for each of them to see how they relate to the technology. And about the music, I'm only sticking to music here, of course. And you see the list of music types that we studied. I will concentrate here on the Western classical music in the following. And I will go directly to an attempt of saving some recording. What we see here, these are musicology students, 4 students. At first they come to the studio and play ordinarily. Then we are split into 2 groups in 2 studios. This is what happens actually, one could say, as they are doing it. This is the delayed version of they are playing. This is the delay version. This means that what actually is heard in such a system is a combination like this: A1 to B2 and B1 to A2. So no one is actually hearing real common time. And if we listen to all these 4 points, we will get a very disturbing kind of result. So what I've done here for simplicity is to make a position where really nobody other heard, namely A1 and B1, which is in a way God's position. So you're in good company. But remember, that is not what actually they heard. They heard this or that. And they tried to, and they didn't know what kind of situation they were. We didn't explain anything. They were just entering a situation where they had to try to identify what is happening to us here. And so it was much eagerness, and they also start to get disillusioned. They get angry. They start to invent new possibilities of trying, for instance, to come around what they actually gradually realized something was delaying their acts. So they tried to find some way of getting means by which they could come around that to establish a communion. I will now play it with this background. Can you get a little more sound?
Ja, men nå ser ikke vi oss sjøl! Da ødelegger dere jo. Vi må se oss sjøl. Det hjelper ingenting. Det hjelper ingenting.
Ja, men det er ikke...
Bare et spill! Tell oss på et spill!
Er det det samme?
Nei. Ja. Nei. Vi spiller på banda, ja, eller dona. Ja. 2, 3. Er ikke det? Det er helt godt. For nå blir vi spiller det som er mye særlig. Ja. Bare spill! Ja. 1, 2, 3.
En gang til.
So that was such a sequence. I'll play another one too.
Vi teller opp, og så venter vi til at vi hører oss selv til opp til hos dere, og så begynner vi å spille, sant?
Ja, men egentlig bør vi begynne akkurat midt imellom. Men altså, saken er at vi kan ikke høre det riktig, og også dere hører det riktig. Men nå har vi øvd, kanskje dere skal skal vi klare det?
Nei, men hør da. Det blir riktig hvis vi teller opp og venter til at vi hører at vi teller opp, og så begynner vi likt, ikke sant?
Nei, fordi det er mye flere for oss å bruke litt tid til å gå tilbake til dere igjen. Ja.
Nei, det gjør vi ikke. Men da hører vi den riktige, ser du.
Ok, vi forsøker.
Vi kan prøve det i alle fall.
Ja. Da må vi prøve veldig høyt for å gjøre det godt.
Ja. Ok. Andre ark. En, to, tre.
What you heard here, that they started to exchange this position. They said we can be the subordinates, so you can be able to hear. Because if someone just becomes a kind of slave to the other, then you get the kind of sounding result, but they cannot get it together all. This means that hierarchy is introduced by the system. The technological system is not just a plain walk around for everyone. And it is interesting that in this society in 1974, these people in a way exposed social values, a kind of solidarity that you could do your job and make your share. In 2005, I was in Berkeley, and people from the Stanford University presented a net art project. I was very surprised that in 2005, they were considering the possibility as legitimate that some parts of such a relation should be permanent subordinates. I must say it was strange in the land of the free, because in a way it would point to a social system 150 years older. This was one of the predicted things in the initial study. I will jump
to 25 years later. In 1998, we did a interactive net concert between the Warsaw Festival, the Sibelius Academy in Helsinki, and Notam and Göran Rudi, who was head of this project with Ultima, and the Knowledge Channel studio in Oslo. Now, what kind of prediction could you make? Well, one is if people shall start together, like in very much orchestral music. How can you do that? How can you start together in such a system? And the prediction was you cannot. This was, by the way, the kind of computers at this concert. This was the kind of equipment we were using in '74. I could talk to you about it because that was the video machines that the US made in Vietnam to use in the helicopters to fly over the fields where they should bomb with napalm, went back to the base, and it was stable enough for that. If you record on this machine and try to play it on another at the same time, they can't play the tape often because it's very unstable. But we were able to use it for some reason or other. So you see here is another equipment that has been distilled in the time that came. Now let's take this example this is recording in Warsaw, and now it is not what is found here that we made a kind of virtual combination. This is the actual what you listen to in Warsaw. This is Warsaw, this is Oslo in our studio, the cello, and the viola here is in Finland. Now they should start to play. This is about 1 minute 30 since it started. These are combined here in Warsaw. In Oslo, they will be combined. And Finland has no direct connection because they are out. Well, it indicates how a system would affect the possibility of starting together. Now, but wouldn't there be any kind of possibility to get something which would be coherent and equal? Well, you could get the kind of minimalism, which is not chosen as it with Philip Glass. It's something that would be enforced by the system. I will join or get to the conclusion. The jazz musicians, the Rastafari musicians, were able to identify what we call the inherent rhythm of the system. in what way does it repeat when it's working as it does? The classical musicians were partly able to do it, but they couldn't do anything with it because their music is defined and in a way given as for its timing. But the jazz musicians could adjust, the Rastafari musicians could. So in a way we found that the Western culture traditional Western culture is not the best off to use the kind of technology that it controls and develops. So it's an interesting consequence with respect to the question of cultural imperialism, for instance, because you also found for the Rastafari musicians that when we compared 1 and 2 jump satellite transmissions, the 1 jump transmission made it impossible for them to remember the words. There was a disturbed that they fell out the wordings when in their singing. But when the delay is expanded to 2 satellite jumps, they accomplished. And what it indicates is that technological changes are relevant to the way that these systems will work. We know that there are natural laws around it, and the effects that I'm talking about here are not, of course, very relevant at very local net transmissions, like the present system here will not be very much affected by these things. But you have a very safe net like the Uninet. If you, for instance, enter into a connection where you have to buy and pay for the transmission, and you don't know the kinds of priorities that the company gives to different traffics, you wouldn't be able to identify either what kind of rhythm you can expect for your own activity. This means that if we are working and studying such aspects of communication, we might be able to uncover and clarify various types of problems related to the development of the technology and how it's put to work. I think this kind of critical scientific and artistic work may be able, and then I'm back to the initial thing about the zero hypothesis. Sometimes very small acts may do something. Thank you.
Extremely fascinating and also very important for the things that we are doing here in the portal. Perhaps, Christian, if you could come up and switch to the other presentation, and then we might take just one question from the audience, if there's any for Ari. Yeah.
We're today in our
I think we
system.
need to start right now. I'm not sure.
It's a small question regarding the delay. We're talking about the delay of 12 milliseconds here. What was in 98 a normal average delay? Were you able to measure it? Yeah.
There were different opinions about it. But in Warsaw, they talked about up to 10 seconds. But really, if you take the delays for space travels, we did some interviews with astronauts. For instance, on the moon, you would get about 2 to 3 seconds of delay, and they talked about it as we are always having a reluctant and thoughtful partner in our conversation. But these were, of course, serial. And when the first study was published in 73, one of the big, very good satellite experts, engineers here in Norway, he looked at it and said, but these are unnecessary. The problem of two-way communication is solved. People are talking together on the satellite telephones. So it seemed that at that time, the question of what is a continuous, what should we call it, simultaneous activities that depend on each other were out of the focus of the technological developers.
Thank you very much. Then we'll switch over to Jimena. I guess we should also do the microphone switch here now. Can you turn it off or yeah? So Jimena is she's a Marie Curie fellow here in the University of Oslo. This is a European project. And she's been working on telematic performance for quite some time, and is also doing that in her new and very exciting project called Intimal. We'll hear a little bit about. Let's see. Make this here. Okay, so please welcome Jimena. Alexander.
Thank you very much, Alexander, and all the team of the Masters for inviting me to participate in this opening seminar, which is a great adventure, these Masters.
Do you see her slides on the screen by the way? Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Great. And I think this is an incredible opportunity also for students to experiment with cultural aspects, aesthetics aspects, and technological opportunities and challenges that this medium offers. So today I will take you through my experience in telematic sonic performance in the context of geographical migration as a space for connections. I am an artist researcher working mainly in sound who creates telematic performances in the context of migration. This is a draft, huge thing, of the data flow of the system Intimal, which I'm working on at the moment, which will facilitate a performance that will take place in April or May next year. In this talk, I will show you how I did arrive to this, conceptually and technically, and how I'm interested in going from the streaming of sound framework to the sensing vibrations possibility with this technology. Since 2012, I have been interested in listening to the in-between space in the context of migration, accessing to it using deep listening practice and telematic performances using internet, and bidirectional streaming of sound, connecting, transforming our perception of time and space, which is also a perception of ourselves and the others. People who participate in these performances are usually non-trained performers or musicians. I emphasize the experiences of loss and the feeling of being incomplete in a new geography involving culture and language, in other words, sense of place. I'm interested in the process of healing, recovering the feeling of being whole in any place as our belonging and identities transform and detach from fixity, allowing us to grow as fully as possible in any location while accepting the migratory condition as a rich human state. I embrace the practice of deep listening, focused on the sonic perception of the space one inhabits. Inner space, body, voice, language, memories, outer space. Deep listening was developed by the North American composer Pauline Oliveros, and she invited us to expand our perception of the continuum of sound as it travels in time and space. She invites us to train our brain body, what she calls the brain body, our thinking, feeling, intuition, and sensing. The practice of deep listening involves sonic meditation, meditations, dream awareness, and body energetics, specifically Qigong. Pauline used telematics as an expansion of the listening process. There is more regarding listening through the media. As Brandon Lavelle suggests, it reflects processes of finding home, making connections and creating a space across digital networks. In mediated performance, we also see the experience of composers and performers like Franziska Schroeder, who suggests that the body is performing as in an in-between state, where one, the performer, resists self-preoccupation in order to allow for the essential unselfing, a state of moving from oneself to the other. And she brings the experience of Butoh dancers who experience this state. These practices and ideas inform the telematic sonic performances series, which I call Network Migrations, since 2012. People have experimented with the spoken word and pre-recorded sounds, exploring these experiences of in-betweenness. Today, I'm going to specifically talk to you about Migratory Dreams, a performance that happens between London and Bogota in 2012. And I found very important to do this performance in the context of a Colombian conflict, finding a space or a platform to share feelings in a different dimension of the reality, let's say, as we call, or the waking reality, and establish a dialogue between Colombians in a dream dimension. So I had 4 participants in each city, and they followed a process of listening to the dreams, listening to the surroundings, listening, also amplifying with their body movements and with their voice what they were experiencing. And eventually, I created a setting for this performance to happen. This involved internet streaming. It was a software called TubePlug at that time, with a mix of signals from the radio station Resonance FM in London, which was amplified in Bogota. Performers were in different rooms than the audience. They all use headphones. So here I have an excerpt of this experience.
Búsqueda del sentido de pertenencia. Me interesa el cuerpo como territorio de transformación. Paso sobre madera, madera que cruje y se mueve al son del agua.
Sus palabras cargan sus emociones, a la misma vez que mis emociones se desarrollan junto a las personas que me rodean. El ser misterioso.
Cascabel, dice él. Soy como un pequeño cascabelito.
El cemento hacia lo natural.
So the highlights of this performance, today I want to give these highlights. It was very important that the Bogotans felt that they were giving back something that the ones in London, Colombian migrants in London, were missing, particularly the primary essence of nature, the green space. And that was very special. Also, how they experience embodiments in their dreams, and find it interesting to explore migration in the body as a space of transformation. A performance, the other performance is called Suelo Fértil in 2016, brought together migrant women from all over the world to be in a conversation. Who are you? Where do you live? And what would you like to cultivate there? Were the main questions. Questions of identity and location. The deep listening process with them took 1 month online using Google Hangouts. Then they listened to the dreams, to their voices in native and foreign languages, to their body and their surroundings. The performance was planned to take place between Mexico City, London, and Linz as part of a migration forum in Mexico City. Technically, I use binaural microphones for the transmission of sound, and in this manner, when listening to it via headphones, the audience could distinguish the locations in an interesting spatialization of voices. It was going to be streamed also by Resonance FM in London. The connection in London failed, as could happen in any telematic performance. And after this crisis and panic, two performances took place. One telematic between Linz and Mexico, and one acoustic in London, completely unplugged of all possible technology.
What would you like to go with? I would like to grow security. I would like to be. I would like to accept not being in control of everything.
Maybe I'm just outside of time.
Okay. So you can go anywhere. Where do you want to go?
Actually, I don't know if I can go anywhere because I feel inside my mind. I feel I'm in that room.
Because your mind can escape. Just give it a try.
So the main highlights of this performance is that the participants, they made very strong human relations that allowed them to go through the difficulties of the technical problems, technical connections. And the perception of that the performance was not only the moment where they were with the audience, but it was the full month, which was a series of encounters, performance, and experimentations. The sonic narratives and the embedded presence and dislocation, and it was very important for them to have an artistic platform to cultivate something that they wanted. Also, the experience of recovering something that was lost, like the voice as an extension, when listening in other languages, their own voice, as they give this person back something that she was missing, like an arm, she says, as a metaphor. So all these experiences nourish the proposed intimal system that I'm developing right now. I'm asking, what is the role of the body as an interface that keeps memory of place? How these embodiments can nourish the system that facilitates improvisatory telematic performances. So this is a physical virtual embodied system for relational listening that interrelates body movement, oral archives, memories and dreams of place, and voice and spoken word. I am focusing on the experience of Colombian migrant women in Europe in the context of Colombia post-conflict. And I have two main sources. An oral archive collected by the Commission of Truth, Memory, and Reconciliation of Colombian Women in Diaspora, and a field work which I'm developing with Colombian women living in the cities of Oslo, Barcelona, and London, who can listen to their own and other migrations, as well as excerpts of the oral archive. Listening to the first source, the oral archive, I created a scheme in my mind referring to 4 spheres of migratory memory present there: body stories, an intimate dimension, social body, social dimension, personal history, family, education, etc. Colombian conflict, which is the historical dimension, and land, soil, and other beings, relationship with nature. I'm using this classification to guide the work. So in the field work, I engaged these 9 Colombian women in a process of listening to dreams, where they listen to spaces that are happening in the dreams as this interstitial space, as it is this one, telematic, and sound and voices that manifest there. Then they all came to Norway and engaged in a deep listening physical workshop where they explore and listening to the surroundings and listening to their inner geography, as well as listening to their voice through improvisations. This work allowed them to improvise and create migratory journeys, and also listening to the archives in the form of 2 experiments to be recorded in the motion capture lab. So the experiment one, well, for the two experiments, they use infrared markers, EMG sensors, and breathing sensors. So for the first experiment, the idea is that one was the main improviser and the other two were the resonators. I have analyzed through tons of data different aspects, but what I want to highlight here are the horizontal displacements, such as running, marking the steps, walking slow, are very interesting and meaningful as a part of migratory journeys. It's also interesting to look at the proximity between them. They use different narrative forms, poetry, conversation, and performative voice. The experiment two, they were, for that, actually they were wearing earbuds and they were giving back to back. They were not facing each other. They listened for 22 minutes to excerpts of sounds of the archive, and there were 40 seconds in between the steps and between the excerpts. And the idea is how they react. They were free to improvise. So what is very interesting of that is also the resonance that happens when they are listening to the same material and in which ways are happening. For example, synchronicities with certain movements that give me lots of clues to think in terms of telematics too. And also the breathing is very interesting. They engage in conversation, for example, with these voices that they were hearing, and also certain parts of what they were hearing, for example, Colombian conflict sometimes triggers very fast movements. After all this strong experience, the participants wanted to continue working in a community. So we have now an intimal community, which is actually a space for them. We are working all this year. And this is a beautiful quote of one of the participants. She said, I feel I'm not from Colombia, neither from Spain, where she lives. I'm from Intimal, I'm from my cells. So that brings a really beautiful idea of the body as a place to be for migrants, and I think for all human beings. So going back to the beginning, this is what I imagine, this is what I envision. I have the 3 cities. I have a system that is sensing body movements, keywords, breathing. Then the system is processing this data. And we have a local response. And we have also a telematic response. The local response is directly with audio, and the telematic comes with data set of breathing rhythms and other correlations and synchronicities that allows us to perceive rhythms that are happening in each city. To end is about a reflection about relationality. So I've been struggling with all these telematic performances this year about the audible material. So I want to struggle now just with another thing, but it's to combine the audible with the things that are not audible originally. And Nina Son-Einsham helps me to wrap up this idea. She has a very nice formula. She proposed moving from the figure of sound to the figure of vibration. She says, if S, singing, she says, in my case, I will say sounding, and listening are vibration across bodies causing change, and V, vibration, is relational. And if V, being, is vibration, also being is relational. So I think this proposal opens lots of creative opportunities to amplify our network, our framework, to think of what is happening out of the time that we always establish for an event that we can call performance. Thank you very much.
It's students, you will probably hear more about this project and probably even get involved with this project at some point during the coming year. I see that we probably should just move on quite quickly now and make a transition to Trondheim, because the next lectures will be from there. Sigurd, you need a few minutes to change, or?
Yeah, I think we need. I also think we might need a few minutes just for some air.
Okay.
This room is very warm.
Okay, so let's do a 5-minute break for biological needs and technical needs, and then we will.
Yeah, open the doors and get out with some beer.
Vai ser completamente fácil. Já percebi tudo agora. Não preciso eu tenho um monte de diferenças de psicologia e de filosofia para cruzar isto. Para mim, isto agora está a fazer tudo sentido. Mas para mim está a fazer tudo sentido. Para mim está a fazer tudo sentido. Tudo sentido. A gente depois fala, mas isto para mim está a fazer tudo sentido neste momento. Agora estou a sentir que está sério. Coisa que ontem mais ou menos, não. Achei que era ali, não. A intervenção desta gaja foi muito engraçada. Repare uma coisa. A nossa postura, a fotografia, se nós fizermos comentários final, um rito latino falar numa expropriação, de facto é algo. Se firmos um japonês, portanto, aquilo que eles querem é tentar arranjar conectores para, de alguma forma, uniformizarem isto. É aquilo que o anterior, o indivíduo mais velho, falou, que ele chamava a ditadura cultural. Quer dizer, esta tecnologia toda vai criar uma uniformização de comportamentos. Necessariamente. É evidentemente que a tecnologia vai alterar tudo. Ele falou na história da guerra do Vietnã. Quer dizer, tudo aquilo que era passado em termos de televisão havia um hiato, ou seja, as coisas nunca eram indiferidas. E repare uma coisa, é curioso, eu às vezes estou com uma amiga minha, ela tem mel e eu tenho nós, e eu estou a ver uma parte do telejornal e ela ainda não chegou lá. Ok? Quando falou, agora repare uma coisa, isso está a ser cada vez mais anulado. Através de, e nós, através de sensores, podemos de alguma forma uniformizar uma série de formas de sentir e de estar. Coisa que era completamente implausível nos anos 60. Quer dizer, agora repare uma coisa, quando ele fala nos sensores, uma coisa que eles aqui ainda não falaram, mas quando falam nos sensores, para nós é completamente absurdo falar-se no sexo através da internet. Que é aquilo? São sensores e as pessoas têm exatamente as mesmas sensações, porque sexo é estimulação, obviamente. Se eu tenho um sensor, eu não preciso do outro. Isto é absurdo neste momento para nós, mas nós não estamos a ver a situação agora. Estamos a ver como é que no futuro as coisas vão funcionar. Percebe? E depois com uma série de coisas aqui assim acumuladas, doenças, etc. O que vai permitir que isto fure e que determinada forma de pensamento vá avançar para lá. Embora nos pareça uma coisa absurda. Não há nada como Thor, não há nada como uma coisa do Will Sing, etc. Isto quer dizer, percebe? Não é. É que não é. Percebe? Por mais absurdo que isto nos pareça. Não é absurdo. Não é absurdo. Isso não... mas a parte dela foi muito clara para mim. Repara uma coisa. Tudo isto tem a ver com uma palavra que é essencial, por exemplo, em filosofia, que é a palavra abertura. A palavra abertura que nos vai levar para uma sincronicidade, e sincronicidade na linguagem do Jung, que é um psicólogo, é sentir as coisas ao mesmo tempo. É a sincronicidade. E fazer com que todos sintamos da mesma forma. Há a tal ditadura de que ele falou, a ditadura cultural. Quer dizer, todos estes aparelhos criaram para nós uma ditadura cultural e vão criar cada vez mais. Eu lembro-me de visitar o centro de informático dos empregados de escritório. Ó Teresa, eu não sei se a Teresa tem noção, mas aquilo eram salas monumentais com computadores com não sei quantos metros de altura. E nós agora, eu tenho esta porcaria, substitui salas e salas dos empregados de escritório dos anos 60. Quer dizer, eu tenho noção, mas não tenho noção. Quer dizer, eu sei teoricamente, mas na prática já me esqueci disso tudo. Percebe? Há uma distância já muito grande. Eu sei falar nisso, comecei a falar dos campeões de Vitória, que era o anúncio da televisão do início da televisão em Portugal. Mas quer dizer, está lá atrás. É já ridículo. E esta ideia da sincronicidade é muito engraçada. Eu não sei se viu os programas de televisão há muitos anos, como é que se chamava o gajo? Era um neurologista americano, eu não lembro o nome dele. E o que era a sincronicidade? Remete-nos também para a filosofia. Porque em filosofia, a filosofia chega à Grécia, havia ainda a europeia, e portanto há o conceito do corpo corruptível e a alma incorruptível. Ou seja, o corpo morre e a alma vai para outro plano e reencarna num outro corpo, mas como o corpo é dotado de opacidade, quer dizer, até que a alma se mostre, demora muito tempo, há um caminho de aprendizagem. Ora, o que é que acontecia com esse indivíduo que esse era não era cardiologista, era neurocientista. O que é que o gajo fazia? O gajo andou o mundo inteiro a fazer também uma pesquisa. E o que é que acontecia? O gajo queria estudar casos de indivíduos com experiência pós-morte. Como, por exemplo, Zé Cardoso Pires, que escreveu aquele De Profundis Valsa Lenta, não sei se leu. Ai, mas é fabuloso. E aliás tem um prefácio do Lobo Antunes que morreu, que é absolutamente fabuloso. O que é que acontece? Nós temos 5 sentidos catalogados, ok? Mas nós não temos 5 sentidos. Só estão catalogados 5. Temos muito mais. Quando nós chamamos intuição, intuição é uma coisa muito fraca ou pode ser uma coisa muito forte. E o que é que acontece? Esse gajo então andou a fazer experiências no mundo inteiro e andou a abordar pessoas que estavam em estado de coma. E quando as pessoas vinham assim, independente do tempo em que elas estivessem, 2 anos, 10 anos, 2 meses, 15 dias em coma, o que é que acontecia? Quando acordavam, as pessoas só diziam disparates, entre aspas. Isto é, há um par de sapatos no 16º andar. E o médico ou a enfermeira dizia, olha, já começou a dizer disparates, já começou a dizer trampa. O que é que acontecia? O gajo, que acreditava nesta história da sincronicidade, ia ao 16º andar. E no 16º andar da janela, o que é que ele via? Um par de sapatos. E isto eram coisas assim, sopas que ele apanhava, e que de facto não eram absurdos. Eram coisas que existiam. Porquê? E ele depois, a partir daí, provava que efetivamente a alma se descolava do corpo e que andava a pairar, a vaguear, justamente a vaguear, andava a pairar e quando voltava ao corpo, quando abria a boca, dizia a primeira, tal e qual como nós quando temos um sonho. O que é que acontece? Ao outro dia de manhã, mas depois acaba-se no sonho. Não conseguimos ter memória de tudo. Temos memória de uma ínfima parte. E ele verificava que isto era constante a toda a gente. Isto chamava-se sincronicidade. Agora, o que ela estava a falar é de uma sincronicidade que é provocada. Não é aquilo que o outro andava a fazer, a verificar, para constatar e para fazer tabelas científicas. Ela está a falar de uma sincronicidade provocada. No fundo, repare, eles quando estiveram aqui os 3 a fazer movimentos, eles estiveram a provocar coisas. Quer dizer, há um estudo prévio, mas depois provoca-se a experiência. E isto é ciência. Porque a ciência é assim, avança com uma tese e depois prova a tese. No fundo, aquilo que falava do seu filho, os testes genéticos. Não sabem, andam às apalpadelas, tal e qual como qualquer ciência, filosofia, seja o que for, do ser humano. porque nós de facto não sabemos. Nós inventamos, estamos sempre a inventar para extrapolar. Quer dizer, quando se trabalha num laboratório, para se detectar como é que se trata a sida, como é que se trata o cancro, porque há 40 e tal tipos de cancros diferentes. As pessoas fazem uma aposta e depois dessa aposta começam de alguma maneira a tentar verificar.
Then I
Só
think we
depois
are
de
ready to
passar pela
start
ideia é que começam a fazer
two
verificação.
lectures
Se há
from
verificação, em muitos casos,
and
a
Kenny.
verificação.
So we will. I'm happy to introduce to you Professor Andrew Perkins. He's professor at the Department of Electronics System Design and something else, I think. And he's also director of Artec, and that's why we invited him to talk a bit about this. And so I just hand the word to Andrew Perkins. There you go.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. I hope you can see my slides. You can see my slides, right?
Yes.
Yes. So,
We cannot.
one second. Okay. So then I'm ready. Good afternoon. I would like to talk to you this afternoon about NTNU Artec, the Art and Technology Task Force. And this is a little bit strategic. So to enlighten the strategy even more, I've chosen to focus on my own research. So I'll tell you how my research fits into NTNU Artec, although I'll also tell you a little bit what NTNU Artec is. And I'll end up with the unique possibility for you, all of you, students and staff, to exploit and use a very unique platform which we have built about 100 meters from here at Adressaparken in Trondheim. So the Art and Technology Task Force has been formally instituted by 3 faculties at the NTNU. It's by the Informatics and Electronics faculty, it's about the Humanities faculty, and it's also from the Architecture and Design faculty. So we have a steering committee of 3 of the deans, and they have appointed me as director of this Art and Technology Task Force. I am a professor at the Department of Electronic Systems. I've been working for a long time within my monodisciplinary work, which has been compression. I've been working in compression technology. I started with sound, speech compression, actually designed the system that many of you might use when you talk on the mobile phone. So the speech compression for the GSM algorithm was made by our group. We ventured into images, we ventured into video, audio visual even, and also then interaction and digital storytelling. So this is sort of what I work with. And what I need to collaborate with others to work with is when I want to compress something audiovisual or make something interactive or make an experience, I need someone to help me work with the content and the creative side. I need someone to help me with the creativity, also the reflections of what this content might mean. And that's why I seek multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary or trans-faculty work. This is exactly what Artec is. So I'm here today to tell you about Artec and use myself as an example. Artec is sort of new, it was established the 1st of January 2017, but it's not really that new because back in the 90s I went to visit the MIT Media Lab. They were then working on wearable sensors in clothes. Sorry. And maybe, can we make it bigger, Robin, on the whole screen? Okay. Okay. And then, inspired by the MIT Media Lab, I came home to Trondheim again. And in 2003, we established something called the Midgard Media Lab. Midgard being here in Trondheim, of course, the snake that kept the world together as one whole piece, had its head and tail here in Trondheim from the Viking era. So that's why we made the Midgard Media Lab. And we actually made a media lab where we tried to instead have some collaboration between NTNU Gløshaugen, technology, and NTNU Dragvoll, creativity, humanities. And we established a studio, a little bit like the studio we're in here now, and we put it in the foot of Tyholttårnet, which is sort of geographically in between Gløshaugen and Dragvoll. And we also then made a lot of projects, and this sort of was also ventured into research. So we were a center of excellency called Q2S for 10 years. And then we had a lot of projects between myself and also professors at the Arts and Media Studies, professors at sociology, psychology. We had Picturing the Brain. We started working with medical and all of this. And then this sort of came into one piece when we designed something called Adressaparken, which I will tell you about a little later. We made a park, and we spent a lot of time coming up with a vision. The park, you know, it is a park. It's outside. It's got benches. It's got flowers. It's got grass, and it's outdoors. We said the park shall be an open arena for test and experimentation of new experiences and new digital media. It shall be a piece for play, exploration and learning, and for wandering, experiencing, and recreation. All visitors shall be surprised and enthusiastic, both through what they experience and what they can do, and the content and activities are based on technology, art, and media. It's a fairly brave vision, you know, and we actually built this. More importantly, when we proposed this to NTNU, they said, yes, this will, you can do this, but at the same time, can you please see if you can gather together some people that are interested and make a task force? And this was then made. We made a task force. We had a structure. We are now the steering committee by the deans of the faculties, coordinated by Professor Anne-Kristine Børresen, who's the dean of the humanities faculty. And then we appointed a director. And at the end, then we set up a big group of people. So we're 9 people in the board trying to get NTNU Artec to become something. Some of these people you might know, it's Øyvind Brandtzæg and Andreas, who's here. We have 9 people from different faculties, 3 different faculties, and a lot of different departments. We're from 8 different departments. We then work together and we try and come up with some strategy that, you know, bears NTNU's strategy. And remember, NTNU has a clear strategy on artistic research. This is the only brand new point in NTNU's new strategy, which was approved in January this year and will last for the next 7 years. This is new. And to have something new, art and artistic research should also have a component of art and technology. And this is sort of what Artec does. So we take our monodisciplinary expertise, we then start working together, and ideally we should become a transdisciplinary research group for artistic research, melting together. We're somewhere in between our monodisciplines, and we're starting to collaborate, and we're starting to get others to collaborate through student projects, through PhD, and through our education. And importantly, we were also asked if Artec could coordinate this effort called Adressaparken. We were asked if we could coordinate what's called DARIA, which is a European network for digital humanities. And we were asked if we could set up an artist in residence scheme. So we have an artist in residence scheme, which is coordinated by Artec. It's very closely related to the Adressaparken. For 2017, in Adressaparken, we had 2 artists. We had a Dutch artist group called Jody, who made a piece called Wi-Fi Garden. And this actually ended up in an artistic piece, which was in Adressaparken for about 6 months, from September last year till April this year. We also had another piece by a local artist, Hanna Mjølsnes, and a Los Angeles-based artist, Mike Leeds, who made a piece called Currents. Both of these were art pieces, an artist in residence scheme that was then displayed in Adressaparken. For 2018, we've decided to go in a different way. For 2018, we have given an artist in residence scholarship to Alex Murray Leslie. Alex Murray Leslie is a artist. She's a musician. She has a band, you probably can't see it, but the band is Chicks on Speed. She makes wearables. She makes rapid prototyping. She has good reflections on what artistic research should be. So this artist in residence in 2018 will not result in a public piece which will go on display in Adressaparken, but hopefully give us inspirations on how artistic research can be brought forward, and we can probably learn. This might be very important for us as we're just in the process of establishing a new PhD in artistic research at NTNU and also at other universities in Norway. So the missions and objectives, I've sort of been through them. I think you'll have to get the presentation afterwards if you want to read them, because I understand in Trondheim it's hard to read. Hopefully in Oslo you can see it a little bit clearer. But
It's the pioneer.
I think the most important is that NTNU Arctic wishes to become visible in the strategy of NTNU. It wishes to be an edge at NTNU. We wish to recruit based on our art and technology, and we wish to become unique based on our art and technology. NTNU has a very, very good natural possibility of exploiting art and technology because we are a university that has all disciplines. We have the technology, we have the art, we have music, we have architecture design, and we're all within one university. We're spread across faculties, but we're very much encouraged to collaborate across faculties and across departments. My own research into this is, I've been very interested now lately working on artistic expressions in urban environments. This has got many names, but you could also call it place by design. You could call it how do we get data from social life and capture this in real time and visualize it in a way that's participatory, that people can participate into it. Knowledge, creativity, and innovation. We've made an online book from our efforts over the past 5 years, together with Wendy and Mansilla, which is called Multi-Use Play Spaces. So how do you take a place, a park, how do you put loose objects in this park and get people to play? This is sort of our interpretation of the vision. You know, if you have a sand pit and put children in it, so. But if you put some loose elements like spades and buckets and forms and shapes, they might start playing, and they might start playing together. So if you put loose elements into a public space, maybe people will start to play. So I made Adressaparken. Adressaparken is formally owned by Trondheim Kommune, Adresseavisa, the largest newspaper in mid-Norway, and NTNU. We have a program committee, we have a steering committee, which currently is headed by the dean of my faculty. I'm currently heading the program committee. We have been building this park, and we have designed it, and we've put it into the world. So we've actually won a few prizes. Last year, or this year actually, I won the prize for Place by Design at South by Southwest, a large festival that goes every year in Austin in Texas. Art, technology, interaction, music, and film. Also, we've won some European prizes. And what we used to say, and what we say, it's a far north commons for citizens and artist empowerment. The Adressa Park is a multi-use play space. It's got the vision. It's very much supported by its owners. It's now in its 5th year. The owners have invested in designing the park, and the owners are investing in running the park. The park is very much an arena outdoors, which is an inbuilt Internet of Things, sensor-based digital storytelling platform. We were so lucky that we were able to build the park at the same time as they built the house. So when they built the house, it's just literally across the river from here. Of course, you start by digging a big hole. And that's good, because when you've dug a big hole, you can put all your cables, all your sensors, everything, and you can hide it. So they're all hidden. They're all there. And then you can connect it into a huge central operational brain. This brain can be controlled either by being there in the house, or it can be controlled by a remote. So we built a infrastructure that's very scalable, hidden, and it's really a plug-and-play platform for any artist that wants to do anything, which can be expressed by gathering sensor data to control some actuators, such as light, visuals, and sound. So we have speakers, we have LED lights, we have sensors gathering data. We use the park to tell stories. So we and my postdocs and my PhDs have had some stories where they've told this through this platform in the park. This is typically using sensors that sensor motion to control LED light strips in the ground. This, for those of you who know, around the park is a newspaper, but also 3 fairly popular night spots in Trondheim. There's a very popular pub, Fire Fine. There's a restaurant, Kausi, and another restaurant beyond that. So if people from Trondheim have been out for an evening, maybe had a beer or 2 or 3, and they come out, it's dark, they're a bit joyful. If the LED lights start following them, they will start to play. They will start to run after the lights, they will start to jump over the lights, they will chase the red light. That's very simple. All you need is a motion estimator and a light controller. You can then build some sound. We have 6 speakers. You can build some visuals on screens. This is also possible. So it is a storytelling platform. In the multi-use play space book, we actually tell you a little bit about what we think is a process you should follow. Taking a location, taking a technology, taking a concept, and seeing if you can tell a story in a different way. It's also a collaborative platform. This platform is available in Metamorph, the Art and Technology Biennale, for 2 years ago. A Czech group decided to use a tunnel, because there's a tunnel under the road, which is the main road into the city of Trondheim. And they spent about 2 days putting up some lights, very simple lights in the ceiling. They connected to our Internet of Things infrastructure, used our sensors, plugged themselves in, and within 2 days they were up and running, and they had an art installation running for 3 weeks during the Metamorph. So it's very easy to use if you have a good idea, and if you have a willingness to exploit something that's digital in your artistic expression. It's also good for rapid prototyping. It's very easy to use the sensors. The interface is very easy. The code is easy. On the webpage of Adressaparken, we have example code for accessing all the sensor data. It's very easy to iterate. So what we do in Adressaparken is we do change these exhibitions on a general level. So the Adressaparken as of now is sort of in high season from September to April, because that's when it's dark. That's because we like to play with light. It's much more fun to play with light when it's dark. In the summer season, there are fewer people there. You can use the audio. You can also use laser and LED screens, as we have. But so they're sort of the main season. And we try to change the exhibitions on an iterative basis. Current had big LED screens. Current was the recordings of the inside of a glacier. Visual and sound. Glaciers make a lot of sound. They really sing. They crack and pop and sing. These images were shown, but they were distorted when people would walk by. And they were distorted according to some weather sensors that we have. It was wet, it would distort more because the ice would melt and so on. Wi-Fi was something that would challenge our privacy, because they would sniff all the information from your mobile phone when you were walking through the park, if you connected to the Wi-Fi called Wi-Fi Garden. If you connected to that, you would get a radar screen, not a Wi-Fi connection at all. You get a radar screen of all the mobiles that had been there for the last day, the last week, the last hour. This is a view from one of the sensor boxes. We take a camera. We can record the motion. Of course, we throw away the personal and we throw away the video. You can do whatever you like. You can make flows. You can make artistic expressions. You could put this on a screen. You could put this into audio. You could oralize it. You could change the lights just simply by using people walking through the park. Now, if they were to respond, they might stop and reflect. Then you've caught your audience. Then you can start even more expressing your story. But usually people would just walk through. The good thing is that the Adressaparken infrastructure is open. So it's free for all. Anyone can use it for absolutely anything they would like. And the only thing you need to do is register your interest at Trondheim Kommune. It's a public area. Everything is free. The only thing we need to monitor in the program committee is that, not everyone uses at the same time. So I hope you can use Adressaparken. I hope it's interesting to have a sensor-based digital storytelling platform so close to a university, and it's such an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Certainly an interesting place and an interesting environment for us to explore. So this is something you have to consider in the future for this program. And also our expertise on sound is always requested in these kind of projects. So this is something you have to think of. Thank you, Andrew. I think since we are a little bit behind schedule, I think we just pass it on to Ekaterina. She's just arrived. She probably just needs a short reset time.
Mas também vai.
All right, I think we are just about ready. Our next speaker from here from Trondheim is Professor Ekaterina Prasalova-Furlan, I hope I pronounced correctly. She's a professor at the Department of Pedagogy and Lifelong Learning. Got that right too? And she's well known here in Trondheim for her work on virtual reality, in particular in learning and training. So, hand it to you, Ekaterina.
Thank you very much for inviting me. So I'm going to talk about how VR and AR can support learning and training, and I'm going to use a lot of examples from our lab, from our university. For example, here, my students at the top left corner, they are all going on a class tour to Great Barrier Reef, like a normal day at a campus, with Sir David Attenborough. Of course, safe would be they would prefer to go there live, but since we don't have funds to take them all there, we use virtual lab for that. And here is one of my students working on an app with HoloLens for a Red Cross. And below is myself in my lab, and though physically I'm in the lab, in the reality I'm at the International Space Station. So as you can see, I just a little bit about myself. So I spend a lot of time in some kind of weird looking VR and AR and MR glasses. Like to try new things. And what about so special about this technology? It's very immersive. Like here, I'm walking walking between two skyscrapers. And though I have no fear of height at all, it's so immersive that I couldn't make myself to step aside. And here I explore some even dental anesthesia with like special system with haptical feedback. So you, depending on how you stick, you can feel resistance. First of all, they started to kind of sticking all over the face of the patient. And the one below, I can climb up a mountain on treasure hunt. So you can see on the screen that I mean this physical and virtual of the map. I have sensors all over me, and I'm hanging there. The farthest up I could get. So maybe do you know what I was thinking when I was hanging there? No more cakes. Because I only managed to get one gold coin, because to get the other side to kind of get around that wall, but I felt that no, maybe if I exercise a bit more and spend a little bit less time with the coach, maybe next time. But still I got one gold coin. So apart from having fun, this technology has a lot of educational potential. That's why we have established quite a unique research group in the Norwegian context, but also internationally, innovative immersive technologies for learning. Intel that I'm leading, also our very special VR lab that I'm very proud of. It's like has the a very state-of-the-art equipment that we are still buying because we are got some funds from the rector, and we I really spend a lot of time there. My husband says I love my lab more than him. And students also seem to enjoy it quite a lot. So not just above. I don't think it's going to work this point. Okay. So you have these students from my course, VR and AR for learning and training. Again, a female student working with the app, female student below exploring the Mars, the app for Mars stimulation have developed. And here, the students from teacher education that explore Chernobyl, the part of their course. Something they can do safely in a safe environment. And the students said that they really enjoyed it. It was really cool, but they wouldn't do it again. So this is a lab that is placed at the campus Dragvoll, for those who know. And it's quite a unique facility, so if you have a possibility, please come. We also had some music students working on some of our projects. Just quickly, like, does everybody know what is VR and AR and MR? Everybody.
What is MR?
Yes, I see Jonas who was working, helped us with the sound. I'm going to tell more about the project where he helped us. But like basically, okay, the VR, it's the original reality and of the stimuli, the vision, hearing, touch, and so on is exchanged with the artificial stimulated stimuli, creating a very strong sense of presence. Like even though you know it's illusion, it's hard to break it. So here I'm hanging here. I'm doing the job of I'm an electrician guy. I'm on the top of a mast, several meters above the ground. And again, I was told to let my hands go, and even I was in a harness. It was really hard to do, but still I managed to do that. And again, augmented or mixed reality supplements or augments the existing reality with the additional simulated visual or audio input. So you see everything, but you also, on the top of that, you have these some visual objects that can interact with you in the environment. You have a small ballerina that dances on a table because it knows it's a table, so it just stays on the table. It can see and sense the surrounding objects. augmented and mixed reality. So there's some, yes, there's some kind of, there's ambiguity in the field about definitions. So, like typical example of augmented reality is Pokemon Go, because it's like it's just placed in the room, but it doesn't interact with the surroundings. But like mixed reality, like HoloLens, which is kind of a bit more complex. These holograms, they can they know where are the other objects, and they can place themselves related to that object and to you. And like, but though this term is misused, for example, the mixed reality headsets from Microsoft, is kind of there, but with some MR-ish aspects. So they are not very clear definitions. So I mean, in China and the US, there are a lot of interest for VR, and they use like this. Normally not yet, so I'm trying to involve and motivate more people to realize the potentials of this technology. So why actually, and why does this technology so powerful for learning and training? There are, I mentioned 5 major reasons for that, but there could be many more. First, collaboration. Students collaborate in shared flexible environments with a high sense of presence. So here you see the top, this is an app that students in the UOIC and Trondheim have created to collaborate between distributed campuses of our universities, such as in similar way like now Trondheim and Oslo is going to collaborate as a part of this new master program. And they have different tools like blackboards, and they can see video, they can throw objects to each other, like they can study the 3D model of a human heart. We had problems with the sound, and Jonas tried to help us. We are still working on that, so we're kind of trying different solutions. But here, that's why we need music people to help us and collaborate with us, because sound is really important. Now we're starting a new project with language learning, where sound is really, really important. So please, if anybody wants to collaborate, let's do it. So a 3D visualization of a concept. Like I said, you can hold the human heart in your hand, as you are a cardiac surgeon, normally you wouldn't be allowed to do that. But in VR or AR, you can. In this way, you can understand complex concepts better. In immersive environments, you can simulate situations or phenomena that are too expensive, dangerous, or difficult to explore otherwise. For example, how many of you plan to go to Mars? So there is an app for you. My students have created an app where you can learn how to grow food on Mars by using hydroponics. You are in a dome on Mars. You see all this Mars landscape, you have this hydroponics stuff where you kind of do certain operations, and then suddenly, okay, you have a vegetables, like the movie Martians. Okay, and then you can do some role-playing in practice in highly realistic working environments for the purpose of doing workplace training. Like here's a typical example of a copy of St. Olaf's Hospital. And finally, this technology can promote diversity and inclusion in a school setting or educational setting. So now I'm going to talk more in detail about these aspects and show with examples how we have worked all those 5 categories. First, about collaboration in VR. Since Trondheim is now, since NTNU is now not only in Trondheim but in Ålesund and Gjøvik as well, we wanted to let students of the cities have been able to work together. And VR was one of the ways to do that. So my students taking a course in Express and Teamwork course and students taking the same course in Gjøvik, they could meet every Wednesday. They can collaborate, like on a project, study together, diagrams, on a table, having fun, throwing balls to each other, like here. So employees do the same. Here, see students have some fun. Again, we're still working with the sound here. And we had another bunch of students went a step further. Actually, but here is, have any of you tried or been teaching expressing teamwork? Okay, so here is the course when you focus on teamwork, how to learn how to reflect in group dynamics and so on. So you see in VR this semester how students in Gjøvik and Trondheim simultaneously trying to do one of the exercises. So take place, give place. They try to visualize. The thing of them is too active and maybe suppresses the other. And kind of they try to draw in VR these diagrams, and they kind of try to understand what are the group dynamics across different cities. So it's quite interesting example. So spent actually quite a long time in VR doing that. And here, since in this course, expert in teamwork, the student groups are observed by facilitators, especially trained student assistants who observe what students do, how they discuss, and they give some facilitate and try to make them aware of maybe some unhealthy group dynamics and so on. So then the students make this new version in mixed reality using mixed reality headsets, HP and Samsung Odyssey and HoloLens. They're both called mixed reality. So here you see maybe this is small. It's kind of the same area as before, but now it's kind of in mixed reality. So the small figures of students are avatars. They are drawing on the table, on the board. And the student assistant is observing them in so-called God mode. So like she is the God, she sees this like something on a table for her. This collaborative areas on the table. She sees how they are moving around and collaborate. And they see her like a cloud in the sky. To begin with, they had like a big face. But then they thought it's a bit too creepy. So they're exchanging the God with the cloud. It's kind of less intrusive. This is kind of a way how, I think, so far I know nobody has done this before, how you can combine this virtual reality and mixed reality technologies to promote collaboration, different modes of collaboration. Also can now show a little video. And maybe you're in a couple. This is from last year, showing how they had this collaborative meetings with Gjøvik. Okay, do you see that? Maybe you don't see my video.
No.
No. Hmm. Okay, I can maybe let the videos to the end and we'll see maybe if we find. I can also try another video that is from another source. No, still no video.
No video.
Okay. Okay, then just continue with the slides and then we'll see if I can get the. Slides are coming.
Yes.
Okay, now we are moving on to visualization. This is one of our projects, a medical visualization for neurosurgeons in St. Olaf's Hospital who do this procedure of sphenoblok. They're injecting Botox into sphenoplatin ganglion node for migraine sufferers. And you see that one of my master students did this visualization with HoloLens of these cranial structures. And you can see, you can get some tips about the path of this gun they're using. So here's one of the surgeons who's using the system and HoloLens, and while he's performing injections, you can see the anatomical structure around it. And another one is another master project with the same that I've been co-supervising with where you can perform MRI and ultrasound investigation on a neuro patient in a hospital. Again, I have a video for that, but the video is not working. So some other examples of visualizations, like visualizing math or volume exercise when you transfer different volumes from centimeters to meters and so on. And this way in ancient Egypt, and visualizing spending electricity in an apartment, solar system. The Crown Prince tried last year the mathematics out. He thought it was difficult. We have this example of how you can visit places that are too expensive to visit otherwise, but for a fraction of the price. Of course, I've been snorkeling in Great Barrier Reef. It's much better than this, and the technology is not that good yet, but it's coming. It's going this way. Another example of aqua swimming activities is an older project. You can swim with the salmon in a salmon cage, part of the aquaculture visualization. Something you can do unless unless you are a certified diver. Then you can learn how to where the salmon you see in the fridge, where it comes from. It's an app we developed with St. Olaf's Hospital and Clinic with virtual reality with biofeedback. It's a you can wear a Merlin bracelet that measures your pulse and VR glasses, and the pulse via Bluetooth is connected to the weather. So the higher